I want to start with Nottingham Forest 1, Liverpool 1. And Janusz Michallik, if you'd said at the start of the season that Liverpool were going to go to the City ground and only get a point, of course they'd be unhappy. But come the end of this season, if they win the title, could this end up being a good point against a side they played against who also beat them at Anfield?
Absolutely. It just, I don't think there were expectations from us to be saying that, right? Because none of us thought that Nottingham Forest are going to be as good as that. But the bottom line is, for you, James, and I, and everybody else, is to look at it as number one against number two. And Nottingham Forest have proven this season how good they are, how difficult they are to beat. They're very well balanced. And for Liverpool, in the midst of this unbelievable schedule, because it's not just the festive season, but we all seen what has happened early this year already with League Cup, FA Cup, Champions League. Now it's coming much sooner than it used to, right? We had a nice time off to the middle of February, and next week we're going to have a game. Well, there's 2 games coming up in Champions League very quickly. So you have to rotate. You have to be mindful of your injuries, and I think if you're Liverpool, although disappointed for sure, because I still think that Liverpool should be beating Nottingham Forest, and who knows, if that game was a little bit longer, maybe they would have. But you have to look at that as a point gain, specifically with everybody else losing points for the most part.
Yeah, plus they went a goal down. James, let's take a look at the league table and some of the odds, courtesy of ESPN Bet, about winning the title and getting into the top 4 as well. The gap is still 6 points. It's probably a better result for everybody else, the title chasers, than it is for Liverpool, albeit they managed to pick something up. Obviously, those odds are just for the top 4, not to win the title. What has that result yesterday done for Liverpool's title challenge? But what's it also done for Nottingham Forest, who are hopeful of going as much of the season as possible without people taking them seriously?
So, I mean, look, Forest obviously have exceeded all expectations. And I mean, I'm trying to think back to the pre-season predictions of whether I had them to be relegated or just to survive. But I mean, that's where a lot of us had them. So,
yeah.
What they're doing is remarkable. And if they'd won last night, they'd have won 7 on the bounce in the league for the first time in over 100 years. So, let's not underestimate historically what we're looking at from Forest. It is quite incredible. And yeah, you're right. I mean, they can play without pressure really until it starts to feel real, because I imagine for them it probably doesn't at the moment. And a result like that, drawing against Liverpool, will encourage their self-belief, but it also sort of probably maintains a perfect kind of game state for them, which is that they know they can compete, but they probably, if they'd won that game and they do win 7 on a bounce and they're suddenly cutting the gap to the top, people could, the debate today would be, are Forest seriously title contenders? Whereas I don't think anybody's still quite having that conversation yet. I think from a Liverpool point of view, what it does really is just reinforce that this is an old-fashioned title race, I think, in the sense of we're used in the last 5 or 6 years, really the Pep Guardiola era at City, certainly the dominance of the latter part of those 8 or 9 years he's been here now. We're used to a team getting 90, 95 points. And really, when they're already 6-7 clear with a game in hand, even at this stage, we're basically thinking, well, they're going to win 16 of their last 18, 19 games, and it's over. I don't feel I think we've got to start thinking about it differently, because Liverpool could go and do that, but there's no guarantee that they will. They've got no pedigree in doing that, which is not to say they won't see it out. But what I mean is, when you've had a City, and to be fair to Arsenal, they've been remarkably consistent over the last 2 years as well. So you sort of think, well, if Arsenal get themselves sorted, they could go and win the vast majority of their final matches. But of course, this season they look more vulnerable than they have done. So I think it just should give everybody a little bit of hope to sort of think, well, actually, we're used to probably thinking of the title race almost being over because of this gap being enough in the last 4 or 5 years, even at this stage, to suggest it's going to be enough to get that team, whoever it is, and usually City, over the line. But actually, I think it's quite different this time around. It feels far less certain.
Yeah, and if Arsenal beat Spurs in a game that we will preview shortly, you're going to this evening, then the gap is 4, albeit Arsenal will have played a game more, but Liverpool will have to cross Stanley Park and face Everton, which is no guarantee of 3 points.